Welcome to today's video, and today we are going to talk about the 5 Robins. Now, Robin is more than just a sidekick, it's a legacy, a symbol, and over the years, 5 distinct characters have carried that name, each with their own traumas, triumphs, and legacies. Today we'll break down all 5 main Robins, how they became Robin, why they left, what defines their time wearing that R symbol, and where they stand today. Now, I want to start with, obviously, our very first Robin, Dick Grayson. Now, Dick Grayson was a child acrobat in Holly Circus. He was a little bit of a trapezist like his parents. And after witnessing his parents' murder by Tony Zuko, Bruce Wayne took him in. Now, Dick Grayson basically was given Robin to channel his grief into justice. He was the first and still remains to this day the most iconic Robin. When people usually talk about Robin, they're usually talking about him. Now, unless we are talking about the current Robin, which I'll get to later, this is the most notable Robin to be talked about. Now, Dick brought a level of hope, athleticism, and compassion to the role. His acrobat background gave him a unique fighting style, and his joyful nature contrasted to Bruce's darkness. Now, I will say, going fandom-wise, when people do talk about Robin, and they want to call Dick the happy, cool Robin, I promise you that Dick Grayson was actually, even though he may have been happy a lot of the time and pretty cheerful, he was a crash out. He was not the happy Robin, and I will fight anybody to this day who likes to say that Jason Todd was the angry Robin. No, it was Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson is a crash out. He is a retired crash out. Now, Dick Grayson, he did outgrow the role of Robin. He wanted to be independent, and he often clashed with Bruce. He became Nightwing to find his own identity. If you watch, now, Dick Grayson has a lot of notable notes, which I could totally make a video just about Dick Grayson, and I could start with the Teen Titans, or I could start with the Justice League, and honestly, I feel like it depends on which Teen Titans I'm specifically referring to when we talk about Dick Grayson. Now, the DC universe is huge, and there are so many Robins. And then there are some key moments of Dick Grayson, as in he found the Teen Titans, he became Batman temporarily, and then leading the Bat family during Bruce's absence. Now, he has a team dynamic of founding leader of the Teen Titans. He's a natural leader and loved by most. In the Bat fam dynamics, he is a big brother type, mediator, often the emotional glue of the family. I think he's quite more emotionally in touch. His trauma is that he has the loss of his parents, and then he has this heavy, strained relationship with Bruce, and then taking on too much responsibility too young. Now, I will go to his ships. He has a lot of shipping. He's put with a lot of people. Canonly, he was put with Barbara Gordon, Batgirl or Oracle, and then Coriander, also known as Starfire. In the fandom, they put him with Wally West, which I'm notably more known of, and apparently they also shipped him with Roy Harper. Now, Dick Grayson is now operating as Nightwing in Bloodhaven. He leads the Teen Titans and helps mentor the new generation, and also ethnic wise, he is canonically Romani, and though a lot of people try to refer to him as Caucasian, and that is what I have to say about Dick Grayson. Now, he's the first Robin, and he holds that torch. He put that torch on such a high pedestal that it is so hard to reach his level, but you love him all the less. Now, I'm going to go to the very next Robin in our list, who has his own video that I will be making very soon. We are talking about the one and only Jason Todd. Now, Jason Todd, he became Robin by, he was a street kid, and he was caught stealing the tires of the Batmobile. I think that is notably the most hilarious part. Um, Bruce definitely saw a lot of himself in Jason's anger and decided to take him in. Now, like, the thing is, Jason was actually very happy to be Robin. And the thing is, when you try to be somebody you're not, you tend to be a bit more impulsive. Now, see, Jason may have been an angry, emotional, and impulsive kid, but he was not as much as Dick was. He was known as the Happy Robin, canonically. But he had this like approach to his fighting was a bit more violent than Dick's, and he did constantly struggle to live up to Dick's legacy. When now, see, the thing is, between Dick stopping as like an adult, basically, Jason never had that chance. So, let us see. Jason was killed by the Joker in the comic book A Death in the Family in 1988. After fans voted for his death, his death haunted Bruce and solidified the anger and the danger of the Robin Mantel. Now, the key moment of this was confronting his biological mother before death, his death and resurrection, and becoming the Red Hood. Now, he is not as active as a Robin on teams, but he is, as Red Hood, part of the Outlaws. Now, when it comes to dynamics, he has friction with everybody. It's a very complicated dynamic with Bruce, and he's respected by Dick and Tim in their own ways. Now, the thing is, when it comes to his relationship with Tim, he did hate Tim. He saw Tim as his replacement and not somebody who was just trying to help. He did actually quite literally attack Tim, I believe, at Titan's Tower. They have a kind of strained relationship, but then again, he has a strained relationship with everybody. But the thing is, when you actually read about the character, you could tell that the fandom and him have, moved on from his trauma on that Tim didn't replace him, he was just helping, and things like that. He's actually not quite literally angry with Bruce anymore, and I think the fandom and the writers need to let go of that. Now, his trauma was he was abused, neglected, he had a very violent death, and his resurrection via the Lazarus Pit, which caused him a lot of mental instability. Now, he has a lot of ships, apparently. Personally, I really think he's definitely my second favorite Robin. When I'm talking about Robins, I think second favorite, I would always go for him. Look, Dick Grayson is amazing, but he is definitely not my favorite Robin, even though he was the first Robin. I think that due to him being the first Robin and he was just so great at Robin, he couldn't be my favorite. Now, when we go to Jason Todd is definitely my second favorite. Now, if we go to ships, he was canonically with Artemis Grace, and fandom-wise, he was with Roy Harper, which is notably one I've heard about a lot. Though, I've also heard about him being with Coriander. Now, two ships I've never really heard of, but I did do research on, was Tim Drake and Dick Grayson, which I think are very weird. And where he is now, he's the Red Hood, sometimes an anti-hero, sometimes family. He's been a mentor to new vigilantes and somewhat reconciled with Bruce. Now, ethnically, he is Caucasian. Some artists portray him with more ambiguous features or darker skin tones. Now, that's all I can really say about Jason Todd. Jason Todd is somebody you just have to truly understand, but he has to be one of my favorites. Now, this Robin has already their own video out. It was the first video I posted. We're talking about my favorite Robin, Tim Drake. Now look, he's my number one favorite, and we're going to hear why. If you want a more in-depth explanation on Tim Drake, you can go ahead and watch my Tim Drake video. If not, that is fine, you can watch this one. Now, Tim Drake, he became Robin because he discovered that Bruce was Batman, and the Robins, he used detective work to do it. He was a young child. He believed Batman needed a Robin after Jason's death, and after saving Dick and Bruce from Two-Face, he was allowed to train. Now, his time as Robin was a very interesting time. He was smart, precise, and thoughtful, the most analytical and emotionally balanced Robin. He wasn't driven by revenge, but a purpose. Now, he stopped after Bruce's quote-unquote death, and when Damian was named Robin by Dick. Now, I find it funny that Tim decided to become Red Robin. A lot of say he's choosing his own identity, but I think due to it being shipped from him, and he being the only person to believe that Bruce was still alive, well, here we go on that. Now, again, I have another video, so I'm not trying to do as much in depth, but as in depth as I can. Now, his key moments have been leading the Young Justice and Teen Titans, the death of his father, Jack Drake, and then Con-L's death and carving the S symbol into his chest in grief. Now, his team dynamics, he was a leader and a strategist. He has deep ties to Con-L, also known as Superboy, and Bart Allen, also known as Impulse, and he rebuilt the Titans Tower. Now, the Bat Family dynamics, he is highly respected by Bruce and Alfred. He often clashes with Damian, and he is close to Dick and Steph, whatever. Now, his trauma has been the death of his parents, his identity crisis, losing his friends, and repeatedly being replaced. Now, he has a lot of ships. He was canonically with Stephanie Brown at one point, and now he is with currently Bernard Dowd. He's our confirmed bisexual king in the DC universe when we talk about Robins. Now, right now, he's Red Robin. He is the member of the Bat Family in Justice and Young Justice. He reconciled with his identity and his place in the family. Now, traditionally, he is Caucasian, but occasionally he's depicted as mixed race. In recent versions, I often hear him being referred to as Korean, like half Korean. So I think that's pretty interesting that he is that. And of course, now we're gonna go to our fourth Robin. Now we're talking about the fourth Robin, and the only female Robin, canonically, when we talk about the main four Robins. Now we're talking about Stephanie Brown. Now, she was originally the vigilante spoiler. She's the daughter of the villain Clue Master, and became Robin after Tim quit. Bruce reluctantly trained her. Now, during her time as Robin, it was the shortest time as a Robin. It was brief, brave, and determined, but undertrained. And she wanted to prove herself. Now, she was fired due to her disobedience. She faked her death and then returned as spoiler and later became Batgirl. Now, the thing is I want to talk about when it comes to Stephanie Brown is that she's actually quite literally the closest she's the closest Robin to Dick Grayson when you look down at literally every information. And I think I'll probably make a whole video about that because I don't want to go as far into it as possible, but because this video does have a time limit. But I think it's quite interesting. Now, see, she has a few key moments, like the War Games event, which did trigger a gang war. Her alleged death, which later revealed to have survived, and her run as Batgirl under Barbara Gordon's mentorship. Now, her team dynamic, she is a part of the Batgirls, and occasionally with Young Justice. Now, Bat Family dynamic, she is close to Tim, she has a complicated relationship with Bruce, and she has a very strong bond with Cass and Barbara. Her trauma, simple, very almost like every other Robin, honestly. Well, at least the ones we talked about so far. She had neglectful parents, faked her death, and then her constant struggle to be taken seriously. Now, her canonical ships are, as I mentioned, Tim Drake. Now, fandomly, she is often known to be with Cassandra Cain, which is her most popular ship, which I've come to find, and then occasionally Barbara Gordon. Now, right now, where she is back as a spoiler, and one of the three Batgirls alongside Cass and Babs, and she is ethnically, in every version I've seen of her, Caucasian. Now, finally, last but not least, we're going to talk about the very last Robin, Damian Wayne. Now, I will say I think he is quite interesting as a character and a person in general, and I think he'd be about third or fourth in the League of Robins in my tier list of favorites. Now, first and foremost, he is the biological son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. Now, he was raised by the League of Assassins, and he was introduced to Bruce at the age 10. He became Robin after Bruce's disappearance and under Dick Grayson's Batman. Notably, I believe he is the closest to Dick, and outside of like everybody to be close to. Now, his time as Robin, because he is still Robin, he is ruthless, proud, and very arrogant. He believes he is destined to be the best, though he does learn humility and compassion over time. Now, more times than not, I'm told he is still Robin. Honestly, I have not read a comic book in a minute, and I just did a whole bunch of research. It says that he did stop, though, in some places. Now, it also just really depends on the timeline we're talking about specifically. Though, again, the DC world's so wide that I couldn't even tell you. He died and was resurrected. He has identity struggles, and he's trying to form his own legacy outside of Robin. Though he's, like, everywhere, really. He is the one Robin where I'm like, I feel nervous about talking because I feel like I have some of my information incorrect. Though I was more confident talking about everybody else. Now, they said he did die in Batman Incorporated, and then he was revived and gained superpowers briefly. And then he led the Teen Titans with, like, really brutal methods, and these were just, like, key moments about him. Now, his team dynamics, he was the leader of the Teen Titans. He was a difficult teammate, but loyal, and has grown more collaborative. I think, honestly, y'all really gotta watch the Son of Batman movie to really just look at him. Also, I feel like the Son of Batman is my favorite movie when it comes to DC. But then again, all the DC movies just kind of really copy the same shit. That's a talk for a different day. His Bat family dynamics. He has a very strained relationship with Tim, though, and that's just like canonly. But in the fandom, more times than not, I see that they have like a cat and human relationship on both ends. Now, like I said earlier, he has the strongest bond with Dick, and his relationship with Bruce is kind of just evolving, to say the least. Now, he has heavy trauma. He was abused and brainwashed by the League, and then he died. And then just the pressure of a legacy. Now, his canonic ships was with Emiko Queen, which is the Arrowette. Honestly, fandomly though, he was with John Kent. The Super Sons duo. Also fandomly, which I've also heard a lot about, is Raven. Now, two people that I didn't really see fandomly, but did research, obviously, was Maya Descartes and, grossly, Tim Drake. Now, where he is honestly still Robin in most continuities, originally forged his own identity path, and sometimes uses his own alias. Now, he's just like, I don't even know. Like, he's just everywhere. Like, nobody knows what to do with this character, I swear. I think that's why I'm just like, guys, I'm like the most unconfident talking about him. Now, ethnistic wise, he is very much biracial. He has a more so Arabic side due to Talia, and then he's Caucasian due to Bruce. And more times than not, I also hear that he is, due to Talia's side, Arabic and Chinese. And I see that in a lot of other people's things when we speak canonly. But also that could be fandom. Now, that we're at the end, I just want to say, each Robin is a mirror to Bruce Wayne, but none of them are the same. Now, you see, thing is, I can't fully say that, like, One brought the heart, one brought rage when we talk about the first two. But honestly, I think that Dick lit you know, he lit the torch, and everybody else has just been trying to catch it. But, they all brought heart. A lot of them did bring rage or stealth of reason. I think some brought resilience, and others did bring legacy to it. Now, to understand Robin is to understand the growth of trauma and family and growth. Now, the cape isn't just a role, it's a rite of passage, and each of them pass through in their own unforgettable ways, truly. So maybe it's not about who wore the mask the best, but it's about what each of them unmasked about themselves along the way. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Honestly, this video to record took me the longest because I just never recorded it. I've had this fucking script here for the past 6 months, 7 months. I wrote the script after I posted my Tim Drake video. Now, I think I could definitely, besides my Jason Todd video, I think I could definitely write a video about Dick Grayson if wanted. And then again, I'm never really confident talking about Damien, but I feel like he has such an interesting background that I do want to research about. So there's that. Like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. Oh my god. I think that's the craziest thing I've ever said. Okay, bye.